In collaboration with Cal Matters, we've been investigating wage theft in California. Employers essentially stealing money from their workers. Well, now we've learned even after workers win wage theft judgments against their boss, many still don't get paid. Tonight, we're examining a local program that may have a statewide solution.
Growing up in his Mexican hometown, Antonio Dominguez says there were few paved roads, let alone fancy cars.
Como que cumplí ese deseo de estar con carros.
So he says washing cars for a living was sort of a dream realized when he moved to the States. That is, until the car wash he worked at changed ownership. In 2019, the Labor Commissioner's Office found the Playa Vista Car Wash failed to properly pay Antonio and 63 others. The state very publicly issued its largest ever wage theft fine against a car wash business. But Playa Vista appealed and is now negotiating a settlement. 3 years later, the workers are still waiting for the money the state says they earned.
Have a good day.
And they're not alone. In addition to large-scale enforcement action by the Labor Commissioner's Office, Californians file tens of thousands of individual wage theft claims a year, ranging from stolen tips to minimum wage and overtime violations, mostly impacting low-wage workers, women, immigrants, and people of color.
Muy difícil. Very hard.
For people like Eloisa, a fast food worker just beginning her individual wage claim process, the average judgment of $20,000 could be life-changing. That is, if she can ever collect.
Frustrante.
The problem, while state law requires claimants get a hearing and a decision in their case in under 135 days, a Cal Matters data analysis finds it actually takes closer to 500 days, and there are many cases still pending, meaning the Labor Commissioner's Office is violating state law. But maybe worse, the data shows 5 years after winning those judgments, only about 1 out of 7 people were actually paid in full. But in contrast, you guys basically have 100% compliance.
That's correct.
Now a pilot program in Santa Clara County may offer a statewide solution.
So essentially, you say pay up or lose your food permit.
That's eventually what happens, yes.
Program manager Jesse Yu explains the Santa Clara County Office of Labor Enforcement began searching the state's list of unpaid wage theft judgments for businesses that sell food in their county, ranging from markets to bakeries to catering companies. Then they threatened to shut them down with one of these until employers paid their outstanding wage theft judgments.
You know, I think some people might wonder, what does wage theft have to do with a food permit?
All food permit holders are required to abide by all local, state, and federal laws and regulations.
And so if they don't pay their workers, they're violating state law.
That's correct.
And while their program is limited to food permits, Yu notes it could theoretically be expanded to any business with a required license or permit.
What might be some of the limitations for other counties to take this on?
I think resources and support.
While San Francisco has a similar program and San Diego is now considering one, not every county has an Office of Labor Enforcement or the money to staff this type of program. Another limitation? By the time the state finally issues a judgment and the county reaches out, some businesses have already shut down or changed ownership.
Santa Clara County is just relaunching its pilot program, which they had to pause amid the pandemic shortly after a successful start. But they say 8 out of the 8 businesses they threatened with one of these either set up a payment plan or paid workers in full within 30 days. Compare that to the Department of Labor's compliance rate. Can we take what Santa Clara County is doing and broaden it statewide?
Absolutely.
Assemblymember Ash Kalra told CBS and Cal Matters the state can't rely on counties alone and believes statewide legislation should expand enforcement to include pulling a variety of permits and licenses until all businesses pay their wage theft judgments.
We do have power over the ability of these businesses to operate in our state.
And State Senator Durazo agrees.
We as legislators have to take responsibility for trying to pass laws that have more teeth in them. Now, you know, the reality is that there's a counter influence.
Both pro-labor lawmakers cite pushback from the Chamber of Commerce.
So real talk here, what's it going to take? How long are we talking before we can see a statewide program that really does have penalties for businesses who are not paying these judgments?
Well, let's be realistic. In this building, it's really hard.
You get called job killer by the Chamber of Commerce.
But the Chamber insists they want bad actors held accountable too.
The enforcement really should be focused on the bad actors who are intentionally stealing wages from employees.
Jennifer Barrera, CEO of the California Chamber of Commerce, says the business community also wants to see bad actors held accountable. But in an interview with CBS and our Cal Matters reporting partners, Barrera insisted not all wage theft violations are intentional.
We have the most complex labor and employment laws, I would argue, in the country.
And she says those who misinterpret complicated laws should repay employees, but shouldn't be penalized. Although not all wage theft is a mistake, and even after employers are found guilty, The data shows many bosses simply don't pay.
There are mechanisms and tools that the Labor Commissioner has to make sure that those judgments are paid, are enforced.
But it appears the Labor Commissioner can't keep up. Her office denied repeated interview requests from CalMatters and CBS, but in an email said last year they collected $2.8 million in wage claims on behalf of 311 workers. Compare that to the $50.5 million owed on 2,300 judgments from last year alone.
Would you be opposed to some sort of accountability legislation similar to what Santa Clara County is doing statewide?
She says there shouldn't be duplicative enforcement, but if the judgment is final,
The Labor Commissioner has made a decision. The right to appeal that decision has been exhausted, so it's a final judgment. Those should be paid, and we have been very supportive.
Is it something that Cal Chamber would consider drafting and proposing?
Yeah, I mean, certainly that's something that we can look into.
but everyone seems to agree new laws would require more resources and more money because the Labor Commissioner's office can't keep up as it is. So for now, tens of thousands continue to wait for the state to enforce the many wage theft laws already on the books.
We'll be following up with lawmakers and the Cal Chamber over the next few months as we continue investigating wage theft failures, successes, and possible solutions. And you can follow our continuing coverage at cbsnews.com/wagetheft.